Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Sweet Tea series here at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. I'm your host, Taylor Dawson, and we are here bringing you all the straight talk on things regarding friendship, family, work, policy, obviously. This show is for all the strong, loyal, and intelligent women who aren't afraid to spill the tea and challenge the status quo. So grab your cup, cozy up, and let's dive into conversations that matter the most. Today, we're joined by my lovely co-host, Ariana.
Hi, Taylor, and hi, everyone.
She is going to give a quick little dive into who she is, and I'll do the same afterwards.
Yeah, so she said my name's Ariana. It in fact is. That's accurate. Snopes doesn't need to come in here for that one. I've been involved in policy for a couple of years now, but more as of a fan. What I actually do here at the foundation is I'm a videographer, which means I get to work really closely with Taylor and the rest of our comms team, but especially we work together as creatives. And I found politics kind of on accident in college. I just wanted to be around people who shared my values, but I didn't really know as much about many issues at the time, and even now I feel like I'm a little bit of an outsider whenever it comes to this, which is why I'm so excited. We'll be bringing on a lot of experts into the show, but then also be able to add some, I guess, an outsider perspective, really, to when we're looking at issues. And yeah, Taylor, let's hear from you now.
Well, quick question, because I feel like this is very important. We work for the Texas Public Policy Foundation, so are you a Texan?
I'm very Texan. I was born here in Austin, was mostly raised, though, in the Rio Grande Valley, like if we were like 15 minutes away from the border. But I think Texan is one of the best words you can use to describe me.
Love it. So I, too, am a Texan. I like to claim that I'm fifth generation, but, we might need to look that up and do a little fact check on that one.
So we might need Snopes for that one?
We might need what?
We might need Snopes for that. Not your name, but for from where you're from. Yeah.
Yeah. All my family's from Texas. I have a very similar story to Ariana. I'm a creative. I studied graphic design in college. I thought I was going to go to New York. I thought I was going to work for a giant publishing agency. Like, that was my vision. But the 2016 elections were coming up. Things were getting so heated. And I found myself getting involved in the political conversation and seeing that there was just so much miscommunication and frustration. And so that kind of led me to Washington, D.C., where I worked as a graphic designer for a nonprofit, and then eventually ended up working for Congress, where I was the digital director on the House side, working with the largest group of conservative members, and then eventually found my stride there and was like, you know what? I don't want to be a bureaucrat. I'm a creative. I don't want to stay here forever. I want to go back and take these ideas and make my community better. And so I decided to move back to Texas and start to implement all these skills that I learned being a creative in policy, just like Ari is. She's on the video side, I'm on the graphic side, so we work a ton together, like she said. And now here we are at the foundation using our skill set to get more involved. But her and I have been talking for so long about, like, how do we pull in people that aren't necessarily doing this as their full-time profession, or
if they are, what those other things are about their life that make their perspective unique. They're not just policy wonks at the end of the day. And so we really want to highlight that about the women we're talking to.
Yeah. So it's like, some of the people will be involved full time in policy, but no one started that way. Everyone had a story of how they eventually led here. And so you'll get some people that are deeply involved, some people that are on a volunteer basis. But either way, these people are trying to make a difference in their community, and we're super excited to interview them. And so this is kind of how it'll go. We'll sit down with our guest. We'll let them tell their story. We have some really fun ideas to loosen them up and have some fun. And then the next section we'll end up talking about is the policy pulse. Ari, do you want to kind of walk us through what that will look like?
Yes. So a lot of the women that we're bringing in are usually specializing in one area, or they're most passionate about that one thing. So this will give us the opportunity to hear about not just what that issue is, but more about what the policy pulse, like it's the stories that align with what they're doing, right? So if we're talking to someone who let's say is someone who's like a border expert, we're going to be bringing up a top story that has to do with that. And hopefully they'll be able to give their take on whatever top story it is that will hopefully be relating to what they do most. We'll see. The cycles get crazy, so we might
Yeah.
jump around in the newsroom a little bit.
Yeah, that is a good qualifying statement of like, guys, news cycle runs a million miles an hour. So we promise we're not outdated. We just might be focusing on something that is a little bit more niche.
Yeah.
And ties into the person's personal story. And hopefully, as our audience, you guys can relate to it. Like, that's the biggest goal here, is to be like, if you're not involved in policy, like, you're going to be able to follow this podcast. It's not going to be like you're just listening to something like with all this like wonky political talk.
And I think it also gives you that opportunity to say, oh, how does this impact my life? Or, oh, I didn't realize that this was actually impacting people in this sort of way. So it kind of humanizes that a little bit.
Yeah. And then, you know what would be so cool, Ari, is if, you know, years into this, hopefully sooner, there's some girl out here listening to this and like, you know what? I really love this. Like, I am a photographer, but I'm so passionate about what's happening in our world. And I think policy is a good place. Like, I want to get involved in that. And then, you know, you'll come and join us on the podcast one day. So, like, 100% want that to happen.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So the next section is called Pop Culture with Principles. And this is where we're going to pull into something that's trendy. And we're going to give more of our like conservative, very female oriented take, but not like in the, you know, like we're women, like this is what we do. It's more like, okay, we're hearing about this new
There's
trend.
no aggressive feminism happening here.
It's just we're super excited about it. And so I'm going to lead on this one, Ari.
Please do.
Well, let's give a little example here. The new Barbie movie is coming out with Margot Robbie. And I don't know about you, but I am super obsessed.
I'm actually really excited.
Right.
It actually looks really fun. The whole thing is just super colorful. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say other than I'm super excited.
Well, let me just tell you, it was really hard for me to not walk in on a full, like in a full pink pantsuit to our, you know, intro episode because I am just so inspired by her wardrobe. But the director,
I actually don't know too much about the direction for that one. It's happening the same day as Oppenheimer. So in terms of the movies, I'm going to see Barbie because it looks super fun. Margot Robbie, the star-studded cast look like they're just having a great time. Oppenheimer is the one where I'm like, oh, that's Christopher Nolan. I have to go see that too.
So like, what is Oppenheimer?
The Oppenheimer?
Yes.
I think we have our producer laughing here. I think you need to go see this movie, Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the atomic bomb?
Oh my gosh. So it's not like it's not like a fake movie about like this is like historical documentary.
Well, not documentary. But a historic.
So I'm a lot like Barbie. Obviously, you can tell that Ariana is very good on film, and I am not. So viewers, I hope you're relating to this level of awkwardness that I am portraying right now because, you know,
I
Ari's
promise
a
some of the
professional.
experts we might bring back in will have a little bit more historical context to add to this conversation. I think we need a double feature now.
Okay.
Maybe a reaction. I don't know.
This is going to be great.
And I think we need to get our producer Jefferson a mic too next time for reaction.
He does walk in here. Okay, well, more on that later. Let's get back to the Barbie movie.
So we'll talk about pop culture with a little, well, maybe with some research ahead of time too.
Yeah. Let's try to feed me some lines next time so
Okay.
that I come off a little bit more polished than I am right now.
We'll try.
But I want to bring up the Barbie movie because it's very feminine, but I feel like there's been so many, like and you're in film, like when it comes to movies, there's like, I feel like all this pressure to like make a political statement. Like,
Do you know what line I hate most in movies? And every single time it like happens, I'm like, okay, I'm done with this movie.
I'm so ready for it.
There's that line in almost, it's so overdone now, but it's the line where a woman's talking to a man and she says, "You have no idea what it's like to be a woman in this world." I can't stand that. I can't stand it. Like, that's not how you talk in real life.
Yeah.
But I feel like
So forced.
But in earlier 2000s and like going from like the late 80s, like in 90s, there's like these like just really cool women in movies and no one made a big deal about it. They were just doing their thing. They were being awesome. But I mean, yeah, I feel like Barbie isn't trying to shove that down your throat.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So like with a Barbie movie, like we haven't seen it yet. So, you know, if this comes out and it's like, not good, we'll probably do a follow-up pop culture segment. But it looks like it's just portraying women as fun. And it's like, yeah, she's very glossy, very plastic, but it's like she's trying to find herself. And like she's not going against like the soft feminine, like she is Barbie. Like she is the version of womanhood that so many little girls grew up with. And I'm glad that they're not trying to take that, at least from the commercials, and twist it into something that it's not. Because I think a lot of us would
It's
be
like
disappointed.
the Legally Blonde vibe, you know?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Where it's like, okay, sure, it's teasing a little bit, but like it's also heading to a deeper chord. I think Legally Blonde inspired so many women.
Yeah.
I know it did for me. Like full on want to go buy a whole wardrobe.
And
of
it's
pink
also not
pantsuits.
judgmental about how,
Right.
like about femininity, if that's how you want to dress.
Yeah, it's just the best. So that was a perfect example of how these pop cultures with principle will usually go. So sorry for my blonde moment.
Yeah, we'll pull out a textbook after this.
Okay, the next section is the conservative council. And so we'll pull in with a guest and we will take questions that you guys have sent us on Instagram. We'll show a little pop up, show you guys where to follow us. And we would love to get your questions on like really anything. Like just like we want to know what you're thinking and what you're curious about.
Yeah, and if you're not conservative, it could also be a good time to see what it is that people think and why. So also having that, bridging that conversation. But when Taylor had this idea, the thing that initially struck me was all the questions that I had, especially in college when I started to get involved with the political movement. And I would have loved to have this opportunity to have a direct line of communication to people who are working in this field, but in different ways.
Yeah, like not quite aligning because like, I was a, graphic design student, so designer, and it was very challenging being in school because I was constantly shoved up against people with like very, very different viewpoints from my own. And it gave me this opportunity to learn how to exhibit self-control, learn how to not get offended when someone said something that really went against my values. And then more than that, like how to have a conversation without making it so emotional and like a little heartbreaking. Like people get really mean. Like that's what we saw like during like 2016 to 2020. It just got so heated so easily. So like that's something that in the conservative council, like that I would have want. Like I'd ask a question of like, how do you handle these conversations? I think we're all exhausted from this like politicking back and forth. Like how do we just get along?
Yeah. And I had to do very similar things being at a film school in the most liberal university in Texas at UT. And then, or even little things like, so I would do different types of like tabling and activism events. And I remember like one for border, someone was saying I can't, and keep in mind, I like lived next to the border, but I was told that I didn't represent a real Hispanic viewpoint. I don't understand the issue because I'm too white passing. So anyway, if those are the kinds of experiences that you're wondering more about, or just like, or even if it's career advice, like what are the steps, things that you wish you had taken earlier on to try to move forward into your career, things of encouragement. So I'm really excited to hear from you guys and what sort of questions you'll have.
Yeah. And like, even if you're a stay-at-home mom or a big sister, it's like you have a role to play in your sphere of community. And we just want to give you the tools to have those conversations, to lead other women well, to be a good example in society. Like we want to all be good contributions to the world.
Yeah.
And hopefully that is what our audience identifies with most.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I feel like that was a really good wrap up of the conversations that we're going to be having. Yeah. And I hope that you guys will be tuning in soon to watch everything that's coming next.
Yeah. Okay. I do have a qualifying statement. So let me just get this out. I have embarrassingly been watching that real estate show in
Selling Sunset?
Yes.
Okay.
And the Oppenheimer group. That is where my brain went. That's why I was so thrown off because I was like, oh, we're talking about pop culture. Like she's going to talk about that real estate thing. So it really threw me for a loop when you were like, have you heard about the atomic bomb? And I'm like, okay. I look really dumb. But then I was like, maybe I should clarify.
I think you're also saying join us next time when we talk about Selling Sunset and the Oppenheimer group.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Okay, we hope you loved this taste of episode 0. We want you to hit us up on all the socials. We want all the questions. We will be joined by some pretty epic guests coming up. So please tune in next time. This will come out on a weekly basis and it'll be great.